Where I'm working more of a cluster rather than 3 double crochets. Hello everyone, this is Colleen with YarnWars.com, and today I'm going to show you how to do this C2C crochet blanket. Now this is not your typical C2C. As some of you know, I do like playing around with stitches and techniques and coming up with newer and sometimes hopefully better ways to create what I'm trying to create. So this is the C2C that I'm working up, and I'm calling it a C2C. I'm not going off of that or designing a new pattern for this, because this is simply just another technique. I'm working corner to corner as you would with your basic C2C. So let me just show you the difference here. Here is your basic C2C, and it's very pretty. It's a little gappier and spread out, which is one of the reasons that I was trying to design this, was trying to get a little less gap in between my stitches. Now, it starts out a little gappier when you're just starting, but as you grow it, the clusters kind of come together and it just really fills in those gaps. And on the C2C, like I said, very pretty. I was just looking for something that would have less in the way of holes and real, gappy. So it's not a huge difference in this, but I do like the pattern that this is creating. It's almost kind of like an interesting zigzaggy. It looks a little bit like baubles when you lay it down like this, I think anyway. I don't know, but I love how it's turning out, and I'm going to show you how to do it just in case you want to give it a try. So let's get started. For this video, I am using Bernat Super Value stripes and a J-hook. This is what is creating the piece I'm working on that I just showed in the picture. But you can make it with whatever size hook, whichever yarn you choose. We're going to start by making a slip knot, cross over, put your working yarn up the back of that, and just pull it through with your loop. Voila, or with your hook. You have a slip knot. All right, so we are going to start this C2C with 5 chains. That's going to be kind of our magic number on chains, but we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, like the regular C2C, we're going to work in the last 3 chains. So we're going to yarn over. We're going to go into that the third chain. Yarn over and pull through. So we've got 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through 2 of those loops. And then we're going to yarn over, go into our next chain, which would be our 4th chain. Yarn over and pull through. You're going to have now 4 loops on your hook, and we're going to yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over and go into that last chain. Yarn over and pull through. You will have 5 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through all 4. We've made our first little group here, our block. So then we're going to chain 5. 3, 4, 5. We're going to turn our work, yarn over, do the same thing, going into the 3rd, 4th, and 5th chain. We're going to go into that 3rd chain, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over into the 4th chain, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. yarn over, go into your 5th chain, yarn over, pull through, if it lets you. Try that again. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through all 4. Now, one thing that can make it a little difficult in the beginning is knowing where to go and what's going on with the C2C. My confusion was the turning, and I would lose it because this would flip around. Remember to always keep your tail downward while you're working this, and you shouldn't have any confusion at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into this chain 2 gap here. From the beginning, we're going to work a slip stitch. We're going to chain 3, or no, we're chaining 2. Forgive me. Yarn over, we're going to work into that space, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go in again, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, go in one more time, yarn over, pull through 2, then yarn over, pull through all 4. Now, you're not going to be able to tell a big difference with the gappiness in this until you work this up a little higher. It just starts, I'm not sure if it's pushing blocks down as it goes, but it just somehow fills in those gaps. So we're going to chain 5. We got to the end, 3, 4, 5, and start again with your 3rd chain, pull through 2, your 4th chain, pull through 2, and your 5th chain, pull through 2, then pull through 4. And then we're coming into the next chain 2 space right there for our next block there, and we're going to come in and slip stitch, chain 2, and work again our little cluster, pull through 2, yarn over, go in one more time, pull through 2, then pull through all 4. All right, so once we get to that point, we're going to slip stitch into that next chain 2 space there and make one more cluster, 1, 2. We're going to go in, pull through 2, in, pull through 2, in, pull through 2, then pull through all 4. Okay, so this is what we have so far. Now each time we're going to go ahead and obviously while we're increasing, we're going to be going out at the end of each row. So we're chaining 5 at the end, and then we're going back in and working that cluster in the beginning. And then we're coming into the chain 2 in our next block. Remember, tail hanging down. Come into that chain 2 space with a slip stitch. Chain 2. And into our next chain 2 space. And sometimes it's easier when I get to the end to pull this down so I don't mess that block up with my hook. Get some more yarn. Sorry, guys. and then into that end. Chain 2 and work our end piece. Okay, so you're just going to continue to grow and grow and grow to whatever size of a blanket you are making. I'm going to do one more with you, and then I'll show you how to decrease. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, into the third, into the fourth, and into our fifth. Then slip stitch, tail down, slip stitch into our chain 2 space on the next block, chain 2, and work cluster. Slip stitch into your next chain 2, chain 2, work a cluster. Oops. Slip stitch into our next chain 2 and our next cluster, chain 2. And see how that's trying to pick up stitches there. I like to bend that down just to work this without it snagging. And then we come to our end, find our chain 2 and slip stitch into that chain 2, chain 2, and work your last cluster. All right, so I just want to show you real quick the difference, and you'll be able to see it right away. I haven't worked as many rows, well, or maybe I have. This is your basic C2C, and this is your this is the other C2C, obviously. It's a hard comparison because obviously I like this one more. It has more color. It's so pretty, but it's really nice how this works up as well. And it's just, it feels a little thicker. And even though it's the same yarn, the C2C works up pretty flat, but this will give you a little more of a bump. So, all right, so now I'm going to show you how to decrease with this. This is not hard at all. When we get to our end here, we're not, obviously, if we're decreasing, we're not going to go out anymore and chain 5 because that's going to increase. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1 and turn our work towards us, tail down. And we're just going to slip stitch into this. There's a stitch right here. We're going to slip stitch into there. And then we're going to slip stitch into our 2 chain space where we will chain 2, work our cluster, and then slip into the next chain 2, and cluster. I think decreasing is probably one of the harder parts for a lot of people on the C2C. I know it was for me. We're going to slip into our next block there and work a cluster. slip into our next block. I'm going to fold this down, work a cluster, and then I'm going to slip stitch into my last block, into the 2 space. Okay, so when you're decreasing, we don't want to go out any further, and you don't need to make a block in this last one either on a decrease. So we basically have evened out that row. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and then we need to get over to this chain 2 space. So we're going to go into this one right before it, this stitch right before the chain 2 space with a slip stitch, and then slip into that chain 2 space, and then work our clusters back like we would normally. And once you get this down, you will just rock and roll right through this. So guys, this is just another method to kind of make a bit of a, I don't know. A different kind of C2C. And then we're coming up to our next, and we want it, you'll see it because this is where we edged off here in our first decrease. So you're going to come into that 2 chain space right there and join with a slip stitch, and then you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. So we're going again in the next direction here. This is our chain 2 space right here, and right before it is the stitch that we will slip stitch into first, and then we'll slip stitch into that chain 2, and then we'll chain 2 and cluster. Slip stitch into your next block's chain 2 space, chain 2, and cluster. And then we're coming up to our end. We'll want to slip stitch into that chain 2, and that's that. So now we're going back the other way. I'm going to finish up with you just to show you the end part of this. Oops. We're going to chain 1, turn our work. We're going to go into right before that chain space. We're going to go into the stitch right before it with a slip stitch, then into the chain space, chain 2, and cluster. And then we come to our end, and we're going to just slip stitch into that. So this is our then we're going to chain 1, turn our work, slip stitch into the one right before the chain 2 space, and then slip into that chain 2 space. And we have finished our square, our C2C. Now what I should do is go ahead and finish off the other one. It almost kind of looks like a basket weave when you're done with that. But I'm going to finish off this other one. I'm going to scale it back 1 row so that you can see it. This one here, I'm going to take off the white of this. So we're even on that. On a regular C2C, and you can see me do this backwards now, but on a regular C2C, to decrease, we're going to chain one. We're going to work a slip stitch in to the stitches going up to our chain space. And then we're going to chain 2 and 3, and we're going to work 3 double crochets. Slip stitch into our next chain 3 space, chain 3, work 3 double crochets, slip stitch, 3 chains, 3 double crochets, slip stitch into our chain 2, chain 3, 3 double crochets, it's just a different look is all it is. And then we're going to slip stitch into our end, and that will finalize that. We're going to chain 1, turn our work, work your slip stitches back, into your chain space, chain 3. This is not a tutorial on how to do a C2C, a regular C2C. So I'm just kind of rushing through this so that I can give you an idea of the difference in the two. And then we'll slip into there. And I'm not saying my way is better. I'm just saying my way is less gappy. Hey, my friends, I'm so sorry. I cut out of here in the very last part of finishing up my decrease round on the C2C. But that is what we end up there. And as you could see, like I said, the C2C, the basic one, it turns out very nice, very pretty. And this is the one, this is the other version where I'm working more of a cluster rather than the 3 double crochets in each of those. So it kind of looks like a little bit of a messy C2C, but it really, you know, it's all about what you're after. If you're after less on the gap end, because you can see a lot more on the gaps on this one than you do on this one, but this does produce for the same amount, same number of squares for this. This is what you end up with. So, you know, there's definitely, you're taking a little bit of a hit, but at the same time, if you're looking for something that's a little more filled in and looks a little less like a C2C, then this might be a nice choice for you. So I apologize for all these tails. I didn't want to finish anything off because this is actually yarn I'm using, that one particularly, I am using for my blanket. And there is, again, the same version as the one that I just worked up for you. This one here. Same one. And as you can see, it's turning out very, very nice. And with the color changes, it's really looking pretty. But I did do a couple of other examples here that I will show you real quick. Actually, I just finished on a very, very small washcloth. This is just something I whipped up really quick because I was sitting there and playing with it while I was watching a show. And then I did another side-by-side comparison to this. And this is an example again of, and let me see if I can get this a little lower so you can see it. Another example, here's your basic C2C, one that you would normally make. And this is my version with the clusters. So everything is just kind of a little more combined. And I just think it kind of makes for a little bit, it's just a different finish. That's all it is. But if you're looking for a way to close up the gaps a bit, then I say definitely give this a try. It's really quick. Once you get started working it up, it moves along very quickly, and it's nice. So, and as you can see, it's turning out very pretty. So anyhow, guys, I'm sorry if this took a long time with my talking, but thank you so much for joining me today, and I really do hope you'll give this a try. It's fun, and it's a different, just a little bit of a different workup, give you a break from the regular routine C2C pattern. I hope you'll come visit us over on our Facebook group at www.facebook.groups/YarnWars. All of our social links are right down in the description of the video. You can get all of my patterns over at YarnWars.com. I hope you'll subscribe today for future free patterns. Sorry about that little knock on the camera. Future free patterns. All of my patterns are always free, but also free techniques such as this one. And I really do hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much, friends. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.